Hi, I'm Kathy from Purposely Refurbished, and I'm here to share with you the process and the materials I used on refinishing and touching up this 1960s walnut bar cabinet. It's such a beautiful piece. It's available. I'm waiting for a buyer. And remember to hit that subscribe for more refinishes to come. So let's get started. So after cleaning and inspecting this piece and doing some repairs, which included completely repairing each one of the legs, drilling new holes for the screws that would attach to the base, and then reattaching them, I decided to refinish the top of the base as well as its trim and the legs because they had significant dents and nicks. The top was a failing finish. It just wasn't worth it to attempt to touch this part up. So as usual, what I do is I tape around the edges and I wrap the entire piece in plastic so that I don't damage the original finish that I'll be touching up. As you can see, there's a little rectangular square at the front end. That's where the top piece sat for all these years, and it was never finished, interestingly enough. I started by applying chemical stripper, and I use a chip brush to do that, and I work in small sections, especially on this piece because half was in the sun and half was in the shade, and the stripper was activating at a different rate. So I decided to work in smaller sections. Stripping the finish first is so important because it allows the sander to work more efficiently. It reduces the chance of sanding through that very thin layer of wood veneer. I use denatured alcohol and a Scotch pad to remove what's left over after scraping. And once that finish is removed, I wait a while before I start sanding to avoid gunking up my sandpaper with residue. I find that I go through sandpaper very quickly if I do that. And it's just a waste of, resources, materials, and time. So I try to go do something else and wait enough time before I start the sanding process. Now this is the top portion of the drop down bar, which I'm only going to be touching up. It really was in very good condition, so I was able to do a touch up on that. I used my hydraulic lift, which by the way, if you don't have one of these, this is something that is an absolute must. If you have knee problems, back problems, it is a lifesaver. And you can adjust the height to where it's comfortable for you, and you can even use it to load things in and out of your truck. Since I was only touching up this top part of the piece, I use naphtha and a green Scotch pad. Naphtha is really ideal for removing wax, oils, and dirt. It evaporates quickly, it doesn't leave a residue behind, and it doesn't remove the finish that like other solvents will. The green Scotch pad has just enough abrasion to clean the surface without scratching the finish, and this step is crucial for preparing the old finish to accept new lacquer and ensuring a smooth bond. For the trim and the legs, I use the same stripper. Again, using that Scotch pad, which I have like boxes of these pads. I use them for everything. Using the Scotch pad with the denatured alcohol to reach those intricate areas is really helpful. It helps get into the details. These pads are inexpensive and they're disposable. You can cut them to any size. So they're really perfect to use, and alcohol helps clean off remaining residue without raising the grain. So this is the Surf Prep detailed sander. You can attach what they call an interface pad. It's like it's maybe a 1/2 inch foam pad that you put between the sander and your abrasive, and it helps you get around the edges. Most people love the Surf Prep. I have to be honest with you, I am not wowed by it. I just feel that it doesn't have enough power. I just feel it's not powerful enough. it does a fair job. It does an okay job of removing the finish. But on the opposite side of the spectrum is my Festool sander. Using the Festool with a 3M abrasive sandpaper, to me, that's my go-to. I prefer the Festool because it really gives me excellent control and very consistent results. It's a powerful enough to remove the remaining finish after stripping, and using the right grit obviously is key here. 150 after you've stripped on veneer should be more than sufficient, and I stop at a 150. Using a sander here is key, but you need to be careful with veneers. They're thin, they can easily be sanded through. So again, strip before sanding and make sure you use the appropriate grit. So now all the original finish has been prepared, it's been cleaned. The finish has been removed on areas where I plan on applying a new finish, and instead of stain, which would have made this finish too dark, I applied a sanding sealer to all the areas that were stripped. A sanding sealer helps the wood accept whatever refinishing process you're going to, add on. In this case, it's going to be glaze and toner. And it allows the area to accept the finish more evenly. It provides a base that allows the finish to build up without soaking into the wood. And this is especially useful when you're working with wood that doesn't need to be stained. So all the solid wood, the trim and the legs were much lighter than the walnut veneer, so I needed to do some additional processes to even out all the color. I applied both glaze and toner, which unfortunately I did not record spraying toner, but I applied glaze, and glaze is a great thing for adding depth. It evens out the color differences a little bit without completely covering the grain. I applied it with a chip brush. I waited for it to set, and then I wipe it back. It really gives a very, very subtle color adjustment while preserving the natural wood look. Sadly, I missed recording adding toner. I used 2 different toners, which I will link. The toner comes out to even out any further color variations and to blend everything together. They're transparent. You very, very gradually add the color. It helps maintain the wood's natural grain while, adjusting the overall color. Again, I will link the 2 toners that I used in the description. Finally, I applied 3 coats of lacquer to protect the piece. I used a satin lacquer. It really gives it the most durable finish. It dries quickly. It creates a hard surface that resists water, wear, and tear. So it's really the go-to when you're using this sort of process. I sanded between coats. I use a very high grit, around 400 sandpaper for an ultra smooth finish. A few things that are noteworthy: I do apply 3 coats of vinyl sealer. I don't think I mentioned how many coats. If you're using an aerosol can for your vinyl sealer or your lacquer, you're going to need significantly more than what I'm using, maybe even twice as much, because you're not getting the power of your HVLP sprayer. Now, finally, here is the final result. The other thing is there were a number of water stains which were easily removed. I have a short you can find on my channel about how to remove water stains. Again, I'm going to link all the products below in the description. I'm new to YouTube here, so that's why I have the wrong aspect ratio on these finishing pictures. I never took them the right way. But you can find me on Instagram as well, where I'm very, very active. There's a lot of information there. But I hope that you'll subscribe, and thanks for watching, and many more refinishes to come.